Hello folks, welcome back to the Keep Productive YouTube channel. It is Rome week this week, and today we are super lucky to be joined by John Taylor, who many of you may know is part of this community. But John, I actually reached out to him because he was posting a couple of tweets about how he was using Rome, and I thought it was super interesting. So he dedicated a big chunk of his time, 40 minutes, which is a lot of time, to diving into Rome, how he sets it up, and he prepared a fantastic video for us. What I quite like is he talks not only about how he journals inside of it, but his evolution of the use of the application, which I think is something that when Rome users are looking at it, they look quite daunted when they get started. So John sort of shares his journey into how he slowly dipped his feet into the waters of Rome. Now, we also outlined how he plans his day and also manages his tasks, and I think it's a really interesting video. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you to John for dedicating the time and attention to this feature. Making these videos wouldn't be possible without folks like John, other creators, so please do thank him in the comments below if you found some value from this video, because it obviously takes him a lot of time to put this together. So thank you, John. I will pass over to yourself, and I hope everyone enjoys this deep dive into Rome.
Hello, Keep Productive community. I'm John Taylor, and I'm going to show you how I use Rome, so let's jump right in. As you're looking at my desktop, you'll see that I'm going to use Rome as a presentation tool today. So I have a section a page I've entitled Rome for Keep Productive, and we're going to start with an introduction. Who am I? I have a tagline on Twitter where I'm active a lot. My tagline says that I'm ordinary, I'm a systems thinker, justice advocate, and note taker. I am the Housing Assessment and Resource Agency Program Director for Muskegon County. I work for an organization called Community Encompass, located in Muskegon, Michigan, and you can find me on twitter.com/John A. Taylor. And that's really the essence of what I'm trying to show as I show off Rome today, is that an ordinary person can use it. I'm not a founder, I'm not an expert YouTuber, I don't have a collection of sites like Francesco does with Keep Productive, but I'm just your average person using Rome, and I don't think it's nearly as complicated as some think it is, or as simple as others. So let's dive right into kind of my theory of Rome as I've used Rome. I don't think of Rome as a note-taking app. It's much more than a note-taking app. Rome is really a thinker's toolbox. Just like some of its competitors in this kind of modular field, that's really what Rome is. It's a set of tools, just like Notion has a set of tools, just like some other apps are a set of tools. That's really how you have to think about Rome. It's a set of tools for thinkers, and it helps you connect thoughts. It helps bring thoughts to the surface as they emerge from the bottom up, and it just helps you process information, gather information to write quickly and smoothly, and really work through some of your thinking processes. How I use Rome, I'll just give you some examples here. Let me bring you to the larger screen. You might find this a little bit more helpful than the sidebar here. Rome is my main dashboard. Everything links to Rome. I've used several note-taking apps over the years. If you look at my Twitter profile, it says that I'm an Evernote user, a workflow user. Slowly I'm transitioning notes out of both of those that I think will be really valuable in Rome. I continue to use Evernote as kind of a filing cabinet, and then I kind of organize things in there and move what I want into Rome. And Workflow I continue to use because it's an easy tool. I use it in multiple ways with shared documents with my team, and to be honest, most of them are not really excited when I introduce a new software to them. and are not in the place where I think they would benefit from Rome as much. So I've continued to use workflow in my professional life for shared documents, and Rome is used for everything else. So everything in there links to Rome, and Rome's my main dashboard. Let me give you an overview of what a typical day looks like. Today is Saturday, May 23rd, 2020. And if we were to go into that date, you'll see that I always have a today's notes. I have tasks for the day. I have scheduled things for the day. As you look at today is Saturday, you'll see that there's nothing under there. I'll explain more later kind of how I do use that function sometimes. Today's notes, I put in a few just quick notes today. Usually they're much more extensive through the week. At 12 o'clock, and I kind of do this, I kind of keep a journal as I'm going through when I enter things and times I enter things, if I enter them under today's notes. I watched a Cinderella movie with my wife today, so that started at 12. At 14:10 today, or 2:10, I read this quote by Ray Bradbury: "Science fiction is the most important literature in the history of the world, because it's the history of ideas, the history of our civilization birthing itself." So I created a Ray Bradbury page. I realized I didn't have one in there. It links this note to that, so I can always see that page connected to that quote. And then at 14:29, I just wrote an author that I'm interested in reading some more of their work. They've got a couple works out that I haven't read. Reading's one of my big things I do, so that's kind of how today's note functions. If I'm going to do a task like today, I'm doing a Rome video for Keep Productive. It would look something like this. I might want to link it to Francesco's Keep Productive page that I have, so that's there. And then a little bit later, I'll show you how I do the scheduled. As we go down here, I kind of anonymize some things in one of my work days this week on May 19th to show you literally this is how I'm using Rome when I'm at my desktop. If you were to expand everything here, you will see that I'm incorporating a lot of things underneath each date, so each time. So when I'm taking notes, it kind of shows a day overview. Since we've been in kind of lockdown because of the COVID-19 virus, our office, everybody's been working remotely. So I have a team of 12. Actually, I work for a smaller nonprofit, and my team actually makes up the majority of our employees. So I have them keeping kind of a log of what they're doing through the day, and then I have to report to my executive director, and so I keep this log, and then at the end of the day, I don't give her this whole list like this, but it enables me to give her a pretty good summary. In the morning I was doing this, in the afternoon I was doing this, there were some challenges with this, so she gets a great overview. I've done this in various apps on and off for years, found it really easy to do in Rome. Just enjoy doing it. It surprises me sometimes. I get to the end of the day and I'm amazed at the things I accomplished. On this particular day, I knew I had a lot of meetings, so I didn't write many tasks down. This was actually something that was completed. I just forgot to check it off. So I didn't write a lot of tasks down, but sometimes this task list looks quite lengthy. And then I always take scheduled events, and even though they're on my calendar, I'll put them on those days in Rome. Just as a reminder, as I'm looking at the work list, I'm primarily working from this worksheet in Rome, so that's helpful. And then you'll see I went to this, I did a virtual meeting here, and I took some meeting notes. And then you'll notice under here, because Rome for Keep Productive is linked over here, that pops up in my linked references. And then my scheduled page is something that I use quite often. It helps me to view the whole week in an overview. And when I go there, and then on the particular day, it will show me where I'm at with the yellow highlight. Rome automatically does this, but I can just jump between days if I want to look at different information. So that's the basis for everything I do. It starts on a daily page. It starts with those categories, and then I just work from there. Things always link back to the page of origin, unless I went up here into the Find or Create a Page bar there, which you can get to. I'm working on my Mac right now, Command U or Control U on a PC, and then I'll type in maybe I want to create a page and not necessarily link it to this day, or I want to find a page and put something under there. So that helps you with that a little bit. The shortcuts over here, you can see I have Rome for Keep Productive because this is something primarily I'm working on. Initially when I started with Rome, I kind of divided things up like this. I actually find that I don't use any of these shortcuts much. Even the templates, I create the templates in Rome, and then I copy and paste them into Text Expander. So then going forward, I just use a Text Expander shortcut for those templates, and then under here I have some things I'm reading. So these are probably going to change. I'm simplifying these a little bit. I just find that even though I have these here, I don't necessarily need to go click on them. Most of the time when I'm working in Rome, I don't even have that sidebar showing. It's up like that, so I'm just using keyboards to get through. Show you some kind of things I do as I'm out and about through my day. I like to collect clip art. I like Calvin and Hobbes in particular, so I collected a couple pieces of clip art here. It's just been sitting in there, and then I wanted to kind of write an inspirational email for my staff. Since we've been working virtually, I try to send them an email every evening, things that I need them to update me on, and then a piece of inspiration for them. This email went out on Friday, May 15th. It was the end of the week, and I just basically wanted to link them to an article that talked about Calvin and Hobbes in quarantine, and the author used this idea of some of the lessons that you can find in Calvin and Hobbes to address quarantine. So just suggested they read that to encourage them. Used this piece of clip art to just kind of show that we've been on a little bit of a rocky journey, and then used the clip art here of Calvin and Hobbes resting to basically tell them to rest throughout the weekend. So this kind of stuff I'm putting in Rome in different places all of the time. But it's very helpful when you're trying to generate something quickly, and you are amazed at how you can pull together the resources you need to convey something to your staff, or to convey something to somebody else, or to share information with somebody else. So that's just a little idea I wanted to share with you. Another thing you might not realize is if you when you put this in, usually this bracket here will be, the markdown bracket will be empty. But if you put a name in there, like I have Calvin and Hobbes sleeping, just to show you something neat that happens when you put that name in there, is, let's say then you want to find that particular cartoon and embed it somewhere else. You can just do 2 parentheses for embed links, and you can then type Calvin, and see there I've got Calvin and Hobbes sleeping. I go there, and voila, the picture's embedded on that page. So as you're using Rome, and if you're doing things like that, graphics that you might want to put in other places, just give them a title, give them a name, something you'll easily remember, and you can find it and embed it right into whatever page you want. A thing that scares a lot of people are queries. I'm not really a computer expert. I don't do programming or anything like that. Just a long-term, obviously, computer user, somewhat tech savvy, but not really someone who does a lot of work with queries. And yet, there are enough resources on the Roam help database itself, and videos that others have put out about using queries, samples they've given, that you can take them and simplify them and use them for your own use. So here's a sample. I'm an avid GTD user. Here's a sample query I did. So as I'm writing tasks through the day, I might say I have to do an agenda for somebody. So the query says if it's a to-do or a task, and I put hashtag agenda next to it. What it's going to do is, in my next actions list that I actually don't reference often, I just keep over here. But if I decide, I'm kind of in a place in my day where I just want to see what do I want to do in the context I'm in, I can drop it down, and it will have put that information right here under agenda. Just with that simple query, wherever I am in Roam, I can just type agenda or call or computer, and all of those things, I like to say, automatically populate under next actions. This right here is another example of what I just showed you with the Calvin and Hobbes sleeping cartoon. This is an embedded block reference, so that simply means that I was where I was at in a daily note. Let me get back here to this. And I just did this. And then I wanted to reference this for you. Query, syntax, and logic. Roam research, and there it is. It's in my page. We can click from it and see it. And then the other thing I think you'll find helpful when you're looking for queries, there are secret and advanced features in Roam, and they're out there to find. You just have to dig. It's like digging for gold, I like to say. You dig for that information, but a lot of them you can find right here on the Roam Research help database under secret and advanced features. And although I have it linked up here, I put the URL down here for some of those of you who are like me, maybe like to pause the video. You can write that URL down and see it, or maybe as Francesco is processing this for us, he can put it on the YouTube page so that you can see it later. Tables are another thing that I love to use for different information. So here's a table I created, and it just shows some differences between Roam and Evernote, and it was very easy to do this. You just basically type in table up here, and then when you click enter and go down to this first area, the first box of the table will pop up, and as you follow this kind of hierarchy that here, you create a table up here. You want to hide that other stuff and just show the table, you just click there on the arrow. One of the things though that I didn't like about tables, and I can't remember whether this was shared on the Roam Slack channel or on Twitter, saw it somewhere, took the information down and forgot to, which is rare for me, write down the source of the information. But I had this frustration too. I didn't have the ability to create fillable tables, and so a while ago we've been interviewing some new staff, and I wanted to create an interview template, and I wanted these to be fillable. And all you have to do here is, instead of text, put in a code block, and then I can change this, edit it, do things like this, and then I put in the ability to rate the person doing the interview. This is the overall rating, from 5 being the best to 1 being the worst. And to give you an idea of what this looks like, let me bring it up here. This is how simple that was to do. To get these points, all you do is a little thing in query brackets, or, and a 2 is here because that's where I left the rating at, and I just put the scale in there, and everything is good to go. So I love the tables. I love the fillable tables. Here's one of my favorite tricks: revisions. When we went to my page down here, you see my schedule for the week. So let's go to that schedule page. I'll show you how I do it. A lot of people, when they create a schedule, they do something like this, but you don't see this above. This is a revision page. It's simply meant you can write something on page 1. Maybe you want to edit it a little bit. You still want to keep page 1. So you can create a page 2 right next to it. You basically can create as many tabs as you want, and you can rewrite it. You can compare the revisions, but you don't have to write the same thing on each page. So what I begin to use the revisions for is I can see the whole month in an overview by week, just by creating a revision page. And when I go into one of my work pages, then each day under scheduled, if there's anything in there for that day, so maybe we'll find something here on May 19th, and I have the link for Rome Keep Productive, that will pop up. But then if I want to drop down and look at the week as a whole, generally I can look at that schedule page here, and because of the way I linked it here, it's not really showing you what I want to show you, but usually under here in the links, under scheduled, I will have something like this, and it will show the date, maybe May 25th for instance. Here we go, that I'm on. But if I just click like this, it shows me everything all the way down for that week, and I can just jump between days of the week very easily. So that's another thing that I've just fallen in love with, and I think I use this to make the point. Something may have been created originally for one thing, but feel free to use it in a different way and think outside the box, because it is a thinker's toolbox. So here's an example. When I put this revisions under the Keep Productive page that I'm using for the video, I told you the simple keyboard shortcut is Control or Command in the case of using your Apple, and just comma. And for some reason, a video never goes the way you want it. It's accessing another shortcut I have. So I'll have to figure out how to do that on the Apple. I actually created this on my Mac, but when you do that, you can type something totally different there, or you can have your revision there. So not a perfect demonstration, guys, but something I think you'll find helpful as you play around with it. And then just wanted to show you another favorite thing. I've been using this for a while. Connor created Kanban boards, and he had them listed under some of the secret and advanced tools as he was testing it out, and now he's made it really public. But this just shows you I was working through some things. Last week we've hired enough staff. We've changed some of the workflows in our office as we've been in virtual lockdown to kind of prepare for an intake of activity that will be coming when things open up. So I was working on a staffing chart for my team to kind of show them where they all fit, what we're doing, why we're doing things. And so just like a normal Kanban board or Kanban board, however people pronounce it, I've heard it pronounced different ways. Just like I do, I also am a Trello user, and actually have begun using Trello less since I've used this feature here. But I can move it, so I have team, goal, task. I used here, again, a code block. So that I can write what I want in. And you notice when I clicked on that, it pulled things out into the sidebar. That is good, because as you're doing things, it'll pull it over here, and you can actually add things under here that will show up in here as checklists if they're in the thing. So I'm looking, can't remember where I put the checklist in this block, but each card can have a checklist attached to it. Task. So where did I put the task? I put task under respond to the critics. So let's go up here and look. And there they are. And then I can click those tasks. You can obviously tell as I've been working you through this that I am what I said I am. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm quite ordinary. So there's bumps as we're going along. But my goal was to kind of show you how I use Roam and show you some of these examples. Just give you some ideas so that you can jump in and start using it yourself if you already haven't. Because Connor, good news is he's announced that he's starting to open up again. Some of the invites on the wait list will be getting access to Roam. And then for those of you that beat the shutdown, there may be something in here that you haven't seen before or haven't used, and it's just helpful sometimes to see how other people use them. Now I'd really like to show you kind of the evolution of my use as I've used Roam. I began using Roam in early December. Heard about it when Tiago Forte announced that he was going to be doing an interview with the co-founder of Roam. Thought that sounded interesting, so began using Roam. And to tell you a little bit of my Roam story, this is actually my second Roam account. My first one, I decided to pull in and import everything that I had in Workflowy just to see what it would do, and I literally crashed Roam. It wouldn't work. I emailed Connor. He basically said it would be harder for him to fix it and find out what I did than for me. Kind of joked with them back and forth about that's why I like to beta test software, because if anyone can break it, I can. And so I literally couldn't get that database to work. I was using a beta of Workflowy and did something I usually don't do. Usually I kind of get used to the structure of the program I'm going to import it in and see if I have to do anything different. Didn't do that, just tried to import it. So I actually created the account you now see. So I'd actually been using Roam a few days before this, and then later went back and completely bullet point by bullet point deleted everything that Workflowy had imported in over a few days, and then got that account so that it's working. And it's kind of been sitting there. I just use it as kind of a sandbox as I'm playing with something or doing something, just to kind of make sure I don't crash this account now, because this is my main database. But you can see on December 19th, I was just kind of over here and just put a couple things in Roam. I have some notes shortly after that, or maybe on December 9th, excuse me. I have some notes shortly after that, or maybe a bit before that, where I talked about the Zettelkasten slip box kind of idea, and how this might be, come that I could see the potential, but really hadn't begun to see the potential. And so I'd play around with Roam a little bit, and I kind of let it stew. Workflowy was my main kind of dashboard for my day, both at work and personally. And then one day I just decided while I was at work, I'm going to start doing similar to what I do in Workflowy in Roam, and see what happens. And so that was in that period of February, and I just fell in love with what Roam could do. Started posting a lot about it on my Twitter feed, and began sharing some of what I was learning, and I've never looked back. So December 9th is kind of the early days. March 16th is the day that our company went virtual due to COVID-19, and this wasn't a particularly busy day in some ways. In some ways it was crazy busy, but you can see that I started by this time really putting things in, but still didn't kind of have the framework I use now. I just had today's notes. You see this here, Workflowy versus Roam, one-on-one, Jesse and John. I actually began to stir up enough on Twitter about how much I loved Roam that Jesse Patel, the co-creator and co-founder of Workflowy, reached out to me, knowing that I've been a long-time Workflowy user, and said, what is it about Roam that you see in Roam and that you like in Roam? And so we scheduled a Zoom call, and I actually had my main Workflowy page up and my Roam page, and I was showing him the difference, and I was reassuring him that I was going to continue being a premium subscriber to Workflowy just because I used it with my staff. And he kind of pointed out nicely to me and very graciously that the last dates I had in my sidebar in Workflowy were in February. We were now at March 16th, and it was very obvious that I was using Roam much more. And he just wanted me to kind of walk him through Roam and see what was so special about it, because he's feeling the burn. He knows that Roam is competition in his category. So that gives you kind of that overview of my evolution from December to March, and then we're back here to May 23rd, and now I always break down today is Saturday, today's notes, tasks, scheduled. You may have noticed as I was going back and forth, you go to my workday here, under this bullet point I obviously put something there. Sometimes I'll put something inspirational here under the day, just something to kind of inspire me through the day, or maybe the weather, or maybe nothing at all. So when the bullet point is ringed with gray, showing that it has stuff underneath, I'll put something there. Other tricks I use, like say today's notes, there was a particular note, let's say, that maybe I had some really important stuff under it that I want to reference. Let's say at lunchtime, I had several things under lunch. Maybe I did some errands over lunch. So it's going to be highlighted. It's going to show, like it does here, that there are things under there. But maybe I have something really important. I just use another text expander shortcut, and I just put those little arrows or guillemets there, and it just tells me, look at this. This is something you should take note of. Little tricks I do using text expander to kind of fill out those days. And here's how my template works. For this, we'll do it under scheduled. When I go into my day, this page is empty, and I just simply type R for Rome and .bp bullet points. And normally it drops everything under there, but Text Expander just updated for me this afternoon, so again, not a perfect video, folks, but you'll get something like that, and then I can start my day. Just wanted to share with you some mistakes I made early on. Like I said, I tried to import all of my notes from other apps before I understood Rome's framework, Workflowy being the primary one. I tried it with a couple other apps as well. And I literally broke my Rome database. And it's a gift I have, like I said. If I can break it, I will. So I love to beta test. I initially imposed too much structure. I really tried to put in things in my sidebar like templates and topics and schedule, and some of these I do use. Topics to just show you. In Workflowy, I had a list of topics, and so I just copied and pasted that list in there and then made everything a page of things either that I'm taking notes on, or things like some of these are blank still. I just copied the framework in there, and I haven't pulled the notes in yet from other resources. And this is great, but I'd say even that, build it from the bottom up. As those topics begin to develop, you can create an index of topics and have that to pull to for reference if you just want to look through the topics quickly. So I put too much structure in, and this kind of fights against that idea that Rome has of the emergence of ideas. Begin with the structure provided would be my recommendation. Daily notes, and then let the structure organically emerge, and then adjust as needed. As I continued to do it that way, I have found Rome to be much better, much more powerful, and I'm not imposing rigid structures on it that actually hinders some of what Rome is doing for me. And then I underestimated the power of Rome, as many do. Its apparent simplicity really masks a powerful complexity. There are also powerful thoughts about thinking that undergird this product. Connor, if you follow him long enough, if you have the chance to talk with him, if you tweet something to him and he responds back, if you watch the videos he's done, he has some really clear thoughts for him on what the philosophy of thinking is, which is why this is more of a thinker's toolbox. And these are powerful thoughts and thinking that undergird this product and even allow it to adapt it for you. Some final thoughts I'd like to share with you. If you want this in the sidebar, you just click Shift and click your button there. These are my final thoughts. Francesco, I hope you're great at editing, by the way, because I know I've kind of wandered all over the place, which is why I created a kind of outline to kind of guide you as we went through Rome. Final thoughts. Many individuals, this should be many, see power users doing amazing things with Rome, and they'll make the mistake that it's too hard for them to use. Just begin. Watch some of the videos those power users are putting out. Read some of the things in the help database. Dig for the gold, and you'll grow your knowledge as you begin to use Rome, and you'll find out you can use it in ways that suit you. I did some real power-based queries that some of the people were using, and actually found like they got in the way, and I kind of took the queries that query templates that they had and simplified them in ways that work better for me. So just do that. This is a place where it's really pretty hard to break Roam, with the exception, and I haven't tried it now, I mean Roam in just the months that I've been using it from December to May, it's just vastly improved. It's always been, to me, as a beta, more stable than some more mature products I've used and apps that I've used. So the import tool is the only thing I found that enabled me to really break Roam. I've never lost data with Roam. Some people initially did lose some data when Roam would have server problems a couple times, or like when Thomas Frank put out his video and 10,000 new users signed up, and Connor said we have to shut the gates and we have to do some things before we open back up. I never had problems with that, although some did. So it's really hard to break. I just say don't try to import massive amounts of data into it. You'll actually find it helpful anyway if you copy and paste data into it from other apps, because you'll kind of begin to get a feel for Roam. You'll begin to review some of your data, and it comes back to the surface for you in new ways, and it's a great process to do. And so I'd encourage you, as you're using Roam, to think outside the box. Roam is meant for that purpose. So even though our co-founders may tell you, Connor and Josh, that this is what we do, that use this for in Roam. This is why we created this. People are all the time kind of hacking that original purpose and finding other uses for it. And the community as a whole communicates very well among one another. They love the product. They're sharing what they're learning. And you'll find out some amazing things as you think outside the box. And then, because nothing is actually wholly your own, I mean, let's be honest, we steal from one another. I say you should steal shamelessly, but that doesn't mean that you don't give credit where credit is due. So here are some of the people that have been really beneficial to me as I've used Roam. So I've listed them here. I just encourage you to kind of, if you're not already following some of these people, follow them, see how they've used Roam, see what they have to say about it. Join the Roam Slack group. And then one of the biggest encouragements, believe it or not, was Jesse Patel, the co-founder of Workflowy, because he asked me some tough questions about how I used Roam, what my theory of using Roam was, that really helped me formulate a lot of my thinking. And I just want to give him, for his graciousness and willingness to engage with me and to ask those tough questions, a lot of kudos. It's a strong leader who can look at his competition and not panic, and look at his product and see the strengths of it, and yet look at a competitor's product, talking with somebody that's now using it, and saying, you know, this tool may be the tool for you, the way you work, in the way you think. So just wanted to give Jesse extra special credit for that. Wanted to give Connor White-Sullivan credit for just how engaged he is with the user base, and how publicly out there he is, even when he sometimes says things controversial, like pricing, and gets some blowback. But I think for him, that's part of the process. Helps him grow, helps him learn. And each one of these people have taught me something as I saw how they've used Roam. So I really hope that gives you a good overview. And thanks, Keep Productive community. I always enjoy being a part of Keep Productive. Thank you, Francesco, for allowing me this opportunity. And hopefully this will bring some new insight to some of you that have been experimenting with Roam or wondering what all the excitement is about. Thanks very much. I'm John Taylor.